As we get started, we have Spanish interpretation tonight, so I'm going to toss it to the interpretation crew to get us set up. Flavia, I'll kick it to you.
Thank you so much. Me, one more. Thank you so much, Ashley. So this is a reminder to establish language justice. If you would like to listen in Spanish at this time, please take a look at your screen and click where it says more, and then click language interpretation, and you can choose Spanish. Para todas las personas que quieren escucharnos en español, en estos momentos busquen el botón que dice more o más, abajo, opriman ahí y luego toquen interpretación de idiomas y luego opriman español. Si están conectándose desde un teléfono móvil, esto está ubicado abajo a la derecha. Busquen un botoncito que dice More y después opriman ahí interpretación de idiomas o language interpretation y ahí escojan español. Y no se olviden de tocar, apretar finalizado arriba a la derecha. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Over to you.
Y'all show some love to the best interpretation team that's ever done it. We're so grateful that y'all don't regard it robbery to make sure that all of us can be included in tonight's really critical conversation. My name is Ashley Woodard Henderson. I'm going to be your host for this evening. I'm so grateful that you all are here. Y'all know that we're trying to do more than just show up and turn out to win in this political climate. We're going to have to follow some of the leadership of our beloveds in Minnesota who are calling for a corporate campaign strategy to force ICE out. And you're now going to hear what you can all be doing, what we can all be doing to transform our country into one that works for all of us, not just the billionaires and not just this evil administration. Jim already kicked us off. I want to make sure that you know that you can say hello to the now well over 600 people on the call by putting your name, where you're calling in from. If you represent an organization, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. I want to make sure that you know how to chat with everybody and not just the host and panelist, as amazing as we might be. When you're in the chat, if you click where it says host and panelist, you can change it to everyone and be in the full blown conversation in the chat. We love y'all. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I don't want to take up too much more space because there's so many incredible folks that are calling in from on the ground, that are supporting organizations on the ground, that have so much to do to update us about what's going down in Minnesota, particularly in Minneapolis, of course, but also to give us our calls to action that we can start doing tonight. So first up, I have the honor of bringing to you President Howard of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators. President Howard, we'll toss it to you. There we go. You're on mute, President Howard. There we go.
Hello, hello, how are you? I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am about 263 steps from George Floyd Square, which is one of the longest running occupied spaces, resistance spaces in American history. We've been here since May 25, 2020, fighting for stolen lives of Black and Indigenous and people of color. And I gotta say, that actually has prepared us for what has become very obvious to people around the country and probably around the world as extension of that, which is the ICE siege of the city of Minneapolis right now. Um, we're we're suffering. We are, but we are also um, surprising them. I think we are confounding them with our constancy. The fact that every single day the members of Minneapolis Federation of Educators get up and they put on their whistles and they go outside and along with community members, they are holding it down, uh, armed with, a phone and with a camera on it and a whistle. We are keeping ICE away from our kiddos who these deputized goons are trying to intimidate. Our family members are driving folks to school, and we're feeding folks and making sure that people that are sheltering in place that are particularly vulnerable are able to ride this out. But Obviously, this is unsustainable, it's untenable, and so we are going on the offensive. We're in the city of Minneapolis, in the state of Minnesota, where we pride ourselves on our Fortune 500 companies, and we realize that power concedes nothing without a demand. And so now we're on the attack, we're on the offensive. If we got to go and take it to corporations that house ICE agents, if we got to go to corporations that look the other way while federal agents come and harass their workers or their clients or their customers, then we're taking it to them. And so you will see escalating actions, and not just of those corporations, but even the corporations that sustain those corporations. Yeah, you might hear about us coming to Target, our hometown store, but what about SPS Commerce, who their business to business uh, data transfer actually undergirds everything that Target is doing with between them and their vendors? What about them? Right? Right? You're talking about ICE agents. What about Delta? Because they putting them on a plane and bring them there. Huh? No quarter. They picked the wrong state. You know, they hate us because they ain't us. They hate us because they ain't us. They mad that we got budget surpluses every year, and they try to say it's fraud. $19 billion didn't go to fraud. It went to universal free lunch. It went to, sick and save time. Our lunch ladies get unemployment insurance during the summer. That's where it went. Oh, we got free college. That's where it went. If your family make less than 80,000 a year, you get free college, huh? That's where it went. So they use the idea of fraud because they mad. They mad that we are multicultural, that we got one of the largest population of Liberian folk, Somali folk, Southeast Asian folk, the Hmong, the Laos, Thai, Karen. They mad. They hate us because we don't hate each other. And so what they doing to us, they doing something for us. They showing Minnesotans what community looks like, because we not finna let them run up in here and mess us up. They not breaking us. I'm on one. I'm sorry, y'all. Ice out.
You are never on one, President Howard. You're getting a whole bunch of amens and hearts and all of it. So yeah, if you're with our fearless leader, President Howard, I need you to tell her in the chat. Somebody say amen, because she just dropped a word and gave us some marching orders. So thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. On top of everything else, we're grateful for your leadership and your courage.
The one thing that I do want everybody to know, I don't know where you from, the thing that is saving Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities they call us, is this. Before I showed up here, we had already forged relationship with each other. And it could have been because of what happened with Philando Castile, if y'all remember, or with George Floyd, if y'all remember. We know our neighbors. Like, we know our neighbors. We the Twin Cities, but frankly, we just like we three raccoons in a trench coat thinking we're a metropolitan area. We know each other.
That's
South
good.
side, we outside, right? And so because we know our neighbors, when they come for one of us, they come for all of us, right? Isn't that a union thing? But now
Absolutely.
it's real. We're literally, since 2020, especially, the unions show up for other unions. We own each other's line. The neighborhood organizations, instead of fighting each other for you, we the land of 10,000 lakes and the land of 10,000 nonprofits, but we show up for each other. You feel me?
Right. That's
We
totally right.
show up for each other. So whatever somebody else's issue is, that becomes that other person's issue, whether it's rent reduction or wage theft or all of that. We gotta stop fighting for a little bit of crumbs. We got to, because
That's
that's how they get us. That's how
that's
they
really
get us. And because we are family now, we had already like dug a track in the road. So when they came, it was like boom, mutual aid, boom, connections. Boom, I got you. We whistling. Okay, boom. You got that block by block. We taking our city back. That's how you're gonna do it. That's the only way to do it. Not on Facebook, y'all. Face to face. For real. It's not gonna be on next door. You gotta actually go next door. You gotta actually know your neighbors. You have to. You have to. You gotta know who and what you fighting for.
Absolutely. Again, y'all show some love to President Howard. We appreciate you. Thank you for leading us. Thank you for giving us things that we ought to be learning right now. When it's one of us, it's all of us. Ain't none of us free until all of us are free. And we are absolutely here to follow your leadership and throw down with y'all in Minneapolis. We appreciate you. Y'all, it's gonna be like you're gonna be at this level for the rest of the call. So President Howard actually just kicked us off and got us really grounded in what time it is on the clock of Minneapolis, on the clock of Minnesota, on the clock of the United States, and about what we need to do to get them up out of our communities, and to stop actually just talking about it, but being about the work of solidarity. And I can't think of a better person to follow that than one of my personal kinfolks, a homie, a colleague, a comrade of mine. We're going to bring up the incredible Candace Montgomery, an organizer with Free MN, and a whole slew of other organizing outfits. Candace, come on up. We're going to bring you up next.
Hi y'all. Thank you for that introduction, comrade. I appreciate it a lot. I think there'll be some slides that are coming up, but just wanted to offer a little tiny bit more of grounding of what is still happening here in Minnesota, mostly to say that a drawdown from 3,000 to 2,300 agents is not a drawdown, that we are still experiencing high levels of violence and continued um, violations of First Amendment rights. Just the other week, multiple Black journalists were arrested for doing literally their job. We are seeing observers being violated by ICE agents. That it continues, and then deportation flights are leaving Minneapolis on a regular basis still. So we are still very much in the state of things, even if the broader media wants to make it look different. Um, and I get the opportunity just to talk a little bit about the context for here. So I'll go to the next two slides. That's the update. And really, like President Howard gave you a little bit of this, but just want to really emphasize that though we are experiencing high levels of violence here, I think many of us feel that we are winning. Not just the story, but actually really winning on the ground. We are pushing back. And that looks like a whole ton of defensive work. Every day on my commute, I see multiple neighbors in yellow vests protecting outside of schools, protecting outside of different hot zones across the city. I see mutual aid funds making sure that people are getting their rent paid while they have to basically stay safe inside. Grocery deliveries, all of that stuff on the defensive is really about caring for each other. And then there's a bunch of work that we're going to talk about today on the offense, and really not waiting around for us to get what we need, but fighting for that. So move to the next slide here. And all of that is really to say if folks are paying attention, if you're thinking about authoritarianism and how we beat it, there are folks out there in the world who study this, who have studied these things historically. I get the opportunity to study this. And mostly what we know here in Minnesota is that civil resistance, nonviolent direct action, and mass movements are what beat authoritarianism. This graph kind of shows you that without a civil resistance movement, we are at 7.5% likely chance to actually push back on backslide of democracy and a consolidation of authoritarian power. But when we build that movement, which we are doing here in Minnesota, I heard a new stat that like 38% of Minnesotans in some way participated on the 23rd of January. No shopping, no school, no work. And even more so, we're more likely to be authoritarianism when we have organized labor, which many of us are part of that, right? We are part of a working class of folks who are here for that. So this is part of our winning strategy and what we know is necessary. Next slide. And this is really just to say, like, this is the recipe. This is how we're thinking about it here in Minneapolis and different parts, that we have to build a mass movement that brings more people in, not just to like Marcia said, Facebook or whatever, but actually to be in action together. It's about non-cooperation. It's saying we're no longer going to abide by the status quo. That both is like getting businesses to defect from supporting the regime, as well as everyday folks to taking away their compliance. Minneapolis is showing the country how you connect and care for your neighbor. And we need to stop allowing the right to use polarization as a dirty word and repolarize our people around a choice, right? What is the world that we want? And are you here for the world as it is, in which neighbors can be snatched out of their houses without warrant, or a world as it should be, where we're caring for each other, where rent is paid, where school is free and accessible, etc. And then continuing to move more people to our side. We have to talk to the folks who don't agree with us, oftentimes because they've been sold a whole bunch of lies about how the right is trying to be on their side, and we need to move those people to our side and be like, nah, bro, that is actually not it, right? And having these conversations, as well as getting and putting pressure on businesses to and other places to defect from the regime. Next slide. Kind of already said this, so we'll just keep going. So ultimately, I'm here to talk about what is happening in Minnesota, and kick it off for my other comrades to talk more in detail. But we are going after the corporations that are supporting ICE by allowing them to eat at their establishments, sleep in their hotels, or renting cars, or allowing them to park in their parking lot while they terrorize our community. And we're really doing this with Free Minnesota and other partners by using creative nonviolent action to put pressure and encourage businesses to not cooperate with ICE. And hopefully y'all have seen some of those great videos. And so this is really about knocking down the business pillar, the corporations pillar, that are ultimately allowing for ICE to have the things they need to do what they are doing, and allow the regime to continue on. And we've been targeting places like Hilton, restaurants, Enterprise, and Target. And I'm going to pass it to some more comrades to talk exactly about how we're doing that, and then how you all can get involved. Thank you so much for being here and taking your time.
Candace, you a real one, the realist. We're so grateful for your ongoing decades of leadership in Minneapolis, and for throwing down and showing us how we can be about the work right now. I'm so grateful for you. All right, y'all, we're going to keep on chugging along. The next person that I get to bring up is from ACRE, the Action Center on Race and the Economy. And y'all also recognize his face from Bargaining for the Common Good. I'm going to toss it to our beloved Saqib to take us from here. Why are we taking direct action, Saqib?
Thank you, Ash. Hey, everyone, it's really, really great to be here with y'all. So I'm Sakib with Acre and Bargaining for the Common Good. And so we're part of the big and growing Mayday Strong movement, which is really building the national power necessary to take what has been done in Minnesota national for a bigger May 1st than we've ever seen before. And of course, we know that to do this, we need to stay focused on the corporations that are driving, profiting from, and enabling the fascist attacks on our communities. Right? Exactly as Candace was saying, we need to make sure that their executives understand that they won't have peace if we don't have peace. Right? So I like to put corporate targets into two categories. The first is the ideologues who are driving the fascist agenda. The second, though, is the enablers who are enabling the fascists because they're too scared to stick their necks out. So with the ideologues, I want to talk about four people: Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, and Joe Gebbia, the billionaires that are bringing us fascism. So I don't think I need to say much more about Elon Musk because everyone, I think, knows who he is at this point, except that Trump and Musk have mended their rift and they're friends again. And Elon Musk is back in power, right? But Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, they're with Palantir. Have folks heard of Palantir? I like to say that Palantir's business model is data mining for evil. They're one of the companies most responsible for driving fascism. Palantir harvests our personal data and then sells it to ICE to help ICE find immigrants to abduct. Just like they harvest Palestinians' data and sell it to help the Israeli military identify which buildings to bomb. And it's very important to note that, you know, Teal and Karp are super close to JD Vance. And it's really not a stretch to say the Vance would not be where he is right now if Teal hadn't lifted him out of obscurity and bought him the Ohio Senate seat in 2016. And then let's talk about Joe Gebbia, right? He's the founder, board member, and major investor in Airbnb. And important thing to know is Trump named Gebbia the chief design officer of the federal government. He was largely seen as Musk's successor after Musk left his post at Doge. Gebbia is another person who's critical to designing and driving the Trump agenda. So these techno-fascists, they really have a radical vision for this country. They don't believe in democracy. They say this openly. They believe in a techno state that they control. They say they want to crash wages and cause an economic crisis in order to make people more desperate so they're more compliant and more willing to accept fascism. And what's scary is that these techno-fascist billionaires are in the driver's seat of the Trump regime. But like I said, it's not just these ideologues. We also need to take on the corporations that are allowing ICE to terrorize our cities, right? So as Candace was saying earlier, and I know we'll hear from more folks talking about this coming up, it's corporations like Target and Home Depot that allow ICE to use their parking lots as staging areas and allow ICE agents to come in and abduct immigrant workers. Corporations like Hilton that house ICE agents, and Enterprise Rent-A-Car that gives them wheels to move around our cities. Corporations like AT&T that have huge contracts with ICE. We need to make sure that their executives understand that you can't expect business as usual when you're the ones that are actually the reason why our neighbors are being abducted and disappeared. What does this mean? It means we have to do escalated disruptive actions at their doorsteps. It means boycotts. It means calling on our elected officials who claim to be pro-democracy to stop doing business with these companies. It means calling on pension funds, churches, universities, sovereign wealth funds, and foundations to stop investing in these corporations. These companies and their billionaire execs and their investors need to understand that fascism isn't just bad for democracy, it's also bad for business. Now, we know that these billionaires have global businesses, but that's an opportunity for us because we are also global, right? We know this is an international solidarity call. We know fascism is on the rise all around the world, and we need to make sure that the global pro-democracy movements are united and working in solidarity and in lockstep against the billionaire oligarchs that are driving fascism worldwide. So now you'll hear more from some wonderful partners to tell you how we start to do that. Thank you.
Saka, we appreciate you. Thank you for your leadership. Next up, I'm bringing up Veronica Mendez Moore, an organizer with Ice Out Now, Minnesota, to talk about why we do corporate campaigns, why are we targeting these different folks, and how anyone anywhere can support. Veronica, I'll toss it to you.
Hi, thank you so much. I am Veronica Mendez Moore. I am coordinating corporate campaigns specifically focused on Target with the Ice Out Now Minnesota coalition. And some of my colleagues have already said why corporate campaigns matter. And I'll just add another piece to this, which is that, here in Minnesota, everything that's happened and, our governor has said bad things, has said good things. But at the end of the day, Trump does not care what the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, Democrat, has to say about anything. He doesn't care about what our mayor, Jacob Fry, for the good and the bad that he said. He doesn't care because who's really propping him up, who's really holding him up and on his team are the corporations. And so there's the different kinds of targets like Sakib talked about. And I think one piece of that that's really critical is that any of these corporations that we can move to defect is going to help make our alignment, the movement stronger, and is going to make Trump weaker. And we know that in Minnesota, Target has significant economic power and influence, both their space economically, but also just the relationships they hold, the way that they move the economy here, the way that they move society here, the role that they've played in our communities in the past. They're so embedded, and in order for us to be able to, I think, move other of the players and have a domino effect in Minnesota, I believe Target is the place for us to start. And so we have been focusing in on Target over the last weeks, months, maybe a month. We have really been focused on doing not only disruptions in the store, not only trying to slow down business. We are acting in solidarity with folks who are leading the DEI boycott campaign locally, Black grassroots leaders who have held that down for a year. We're acting in solidarity with them. We're also looking at different kinds of strategies, right? It's not just about mass protests and it's not just about boycotts. It's about how we make it bigger than that through going, investor strategies, pension funds. There's just a lot of different ways that we can come at them so that they're regularly surprised when we hit them from a different angle. And excuse me. And so over the last week here, we've done a number of different sit-ins. It's starting to get under their skin. I'm sitting here in the basement of a church right now because we just had a nonviolent direct action training for a bunch of big actions that are going to be happening locally in Minnesota tomorrow and also on a national level. So there's, in the chat right now is how you can launch an action. So the thing, just like everything else in this moment, everything doesn't have to come from a long established, campaign and organization, which is the way that we often move. But in this moment, we are creating opportunities for anyone and everyone to plug in. So just like mutual aid that you can do on your block, patrolling that you can do on your school, ways for people to plug in near them. We're also distributing these actions such that people can they can host a store. So the link in the chat right now is to click on and you can host an action. You just put it on the map. You get yourself together a handful of people and you can go do a delegation and deliver a letter. Or maybe you're able to, publicize and get it more turnout and you can lead a sit-in. But there are a number of different ways of being able to be disruptive there. It's just a matter of like letting them know that you're there is the way that we start to build the pressure on them. And so I encourage folks to get involved, whether it's in the Target campaign and in other campaigns, in these distributed actions where even if you're thinking, man, I don't know how to organize a big protest, start with something small. And that's the same way that we've been successful in feeding our neighbors and in getting the kids in our neighborhood to school in a way that doesn't risk their families, is we start small, we start where we are, and then we go big and we connect with more organizations and we connect on a national level, we connect on an international level. And I think those are the ways to plug in. And specifically with this Target actions, like I said, that's in the chat, we encourage people to participate in what is now a week of action that we're really going to launch in Minnesota tomorrow. With a big set of actions, and then folks from all over the country will be participating in more. So please look on that map if you can host a store and do anything from something small to something big. Go inside with 3 people and sing a song. Anything, any step that you feel like you can take, we want to invite you to do that. And I will pass it on to whoever's next up on the agenda.
We got you, Veto. Thank you. We've paused the chat for a second because we wanted to make sure you could catch these links. And with 1,000 of y'all in the chat, it's been hard for folks when it's moving so quickly to grab them. So I want you to take a moment, if you haven't already, to grab these links. It'll help you either find or be able to host your own Target event. Because it's time for us to turn up. So you can keep up to date. You can grab the toolkit to learn what to do if you're going to host an action at your closest Target. You can see how to launch actions near you. You can find actions near you, all with those links. We're going to be sending these out to you as well after the call wraps. And for all of you who are worried about missing something, we have recorded this call. You're going to be able to both find it on the Acre YouTube page. We're also going to send this out to folks who registered. And if you're on the Mayday Strong listserv, you'll get it there. So promise we're not leaving any one of us behind. We all are going to have access to this video, to the recording of this call tonight. So you can re-listen to all the great speakers. If you missed it, we're excited that you're watching it afterward. And you'll get all of these links to be able to take action. And there is yet more coming. Our next speaker is the incredible executive director of the Sunrise Movement, who is actually joining us from Minneapolis. Aru, I'll toss it to you next.
Hey y'all, so great to talk. I'm honored to be here with you guys today. Being in Minneapolis has been really hard, really hectic in a lot of ways. I grew up here, and one of the things that has brought me the most comfort in this time is seeing the incredible creative solidarity and organizing that is happening. And as Candace was saying, that isn't just going on defense, it's going on offense as well. So I'm here today to talk to you about our No Sleep for Ice campaign specifically. And as I talk, I'm going to give you guys the link to do an action to basically book. Oh, I sent it to the wrong chat. To basically book and cancel Hilton reservations. And so you can do that while I'm talking. And I hope by the end we have 1,000 people on this call. So maybe we can make 1,000 reservations that we are ready to cancel. So the core logic of this campaign is exactly what Candace and Beryl and so many others laid out. At the end of the day, ICE thinks they can send in forces to our city, but we are the ones who actually run the city. We are the ones who build the roads, who clear the snow from the roads. We're the ones who staff the hotels, who run the rental car agencies, who run the restaurants. And ICE cannot operate without ordinary people letting them operate. That's like the most key thing for us to wrap our heads around because they try to make us believe that we do not have power. But the reality is that ordinary people have every ounce of power in this society. And if we start acting like it, then we can actually kick ICE out. And 700 agents down is not a victory, but it is a mark of them understanding that they are not winning in Minneapolis, and we need to keep that pressure up. So that's why we're running our No Sleep for ICE campaign, and we are starting specifically with targeting Hilton. We're targeting Hilton because we, one, know that they're housing ICE in huge numbers across the Twin Cities. Two, we know that they are willing to hold a line. They have said that they won't be used as a literal deportation holding facility, and they won't let ICE use them to hold immigrants. And they also have dropped a hotel that refused ICE. So what we're showing them is that they have more to lose from standing with ICE than they have to gain. We're showing them that ordinary people are going to boycott them, are going to book and cancel their rooms, are going to make so much noise outside of their hotels that their guests can't sleep and that they complain, that they will lose on their bottom line. They will suffer financial losses if they make this choice. That's what we're showing them right now. And the really cool thing is that it is working. We've been doing a couple of key tactics. We've been showing up overnight in the middle of the night, making a lot of noise. Maybe people have seen this, like maybe put like a heart or thumbs up if you've seen this happening. Okay, I'm seeing some of them coming up. Yeah, so we've been showing up in the middle of the night, making a lot of noise and waking people up. We have been booking rooms and then canceling them last minute when we have free reservations, to basically make them lose money, and also to make sure that ICE cannot actually themselves book rooms. We have been flooding their reviews. We have also been running a citywide campaign to revoke the liquor licenses of hotels that are housing ICE as a way to show them that like the city will not cooperate with them. So we've been going at every single angle. And the reason we picked Hilton in part was because there are so many angles to go in on this campaign at. Many people have a Hilton near them. We can have workers refuse to house ICE. We can have managers refuse to have ICE, and all the way up to the corporate level. We can have the corporation itself say that ICE is not welcome in the hotel. And the really cool thing is that it's like really been working. We have distributed a tip line across the country and in Minneapolis where hotel workers can give us tips about where ICE is at. We've had workers thank us for coming. We've had managers like call and let us know that ICE is there and ask us to do a noise protest there to get an excuse to kick ICE out. We've had an increasing number of hotels actually start to kick ICE out. If you go onto Hilton's social media right now, you can see every single post from when ICE entered Minneapolis is flooded with comments saying, "Oh, I know that you host ICE here. I'm never going to Hilton again. I'm canceling my Hilton Honors membership." It's like honestly really fun to pull up your Instagram and scroll through the comments because you can just see the incredible impact we've already had. A few days ago, a member of Hilton's branding team actually called us to convince us that what we were doing was super ineffective and definitely not going to work, which I think is hilarious, and definitely a sign that it's working a lot more than they want it to. Yeah, super convincing. They should have maybe hidden what their title was before calling us, so we couldn't figure it out. Um, Yeah, it's working and it needs more momentum. And the most exciting thing about it is that it's starting to spread. Last week, there was an action in New York in a Hilton lobby. This week, there have been ones at the Hilton CEO's house in Baltimore. There was one in Texas. There was one in Portland a few nights ago. And it's really cool to see them popping up all around the country and this organic energy as people start to realize that Hilton is housing ICE. And we start to show that any company that publicly affiliates themselves with ICE will lose out. We have ordinary people on our side. They do not. They do not have public opinion on their side right now. And we need to wield the power that we have access to show them that their guns and their military might will not cow us into submission. That's what we're doing right now. So if that's a fight that you want to be part of, I am putting this in the chat right now again, smvmt.org/Hilton. I'm gonna put it in. And let's see if once people have filled it out, let's have you put something in the chat whenever you've like actually booked and canceled a hotel reservation. Let's see if we can get a couple of them in here. As people are filling it out, I'll say two more things. One, I'll say that this only starts with Hilton. We want Hilton to kick out ICE, but this is the beginning. This is like the first domino in a long row of dominoes that first it's Hilton and then it's every hotel company and then it's like every company that wants to make money right now. And then it's like the police and the military defecting. It's like Republican lawmakers. And what we are actually doing right now is creating a mass movement so powerful and so large that Trump cannot hold on to power, and that we are actually able to not only oust Trump, but win the political and structural changes to our system that we need in order to build a better world. That's the movement we're building right now. That's the movement that you all are right here as part of. Let's say put a flame in the chat when you've done it. You should be able to book online. The last thing I'll say is, yeah, it's really cool that it's working. I've seen the chats come in. The last thing I'll say is it's exhausting to be in Minneapolis right now. It feels like every moment your whole body is like in overdrive and like you can't let your guard down for a second. And the thing that is giving me courage is seeing the level of people in my city, across the country, across the world, who have their eyes on Minneapolis and who are so willing to be brave and courageous and loving beyond anything they ever imagined was possible. That's what's making the difference. Dictators fall when they overestimate their own power and they underestimate the people that they're trying to rule over. That's the mistake that Trump just made. Let's get him, y'all.
Aru, folks are asking questions about like how long to make the reservation. I want to just remind folks that the tech support already answered this question, and you can see on the website which hotels we're targeting, which of the Hilton branches we're going after, particularly in Minneapolis. But you'll see that you book a flexible rate room with free cancellation about 5 to 7 days from now. If you, like me, will forget that you made the reservation, set an alarm. Make sure you've got like a reminder on your phone, something that reminds you to cancel an hour or so before your
And
free
if you
cancellation
fill out the
expires.
form, we have a form, and if you fill it out, we will remind you for you if that's helpful.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if you go on the website, it says not only which places you need to get your reservation, but it'll also give you an opportunity to give your contact information so that Sunrise can remind you to cancel it. So y'all show some love to Aru. And again, if you've already hit us with your flames because you've already set up your reservation, this is a good time to tell somebody else they need to as well. And let's make this happen. So now you've gotten two calls to action tonight. You've gotten one about Target. And shout out to all of the comrades who have been already participating in the Target Fast and We Ain't Buying It and all of the things that we've done that were black led to target them. Somebody asked a really good question in the chat, like, what's Target got to do with this? Well, they're complicit. They're complying with the administration. They did it around DEI. They're doing it around other things. This is why we're coming after them. Y'all, you heard why Hilton. I also found it really important. We had someone in the Q&A mention, shout out to Laura, that it's not just happening in Minneapolis or Minnesota. it's happening across the entire country, but as it pertains to Minneapolis, it's the entire Twin Cities metro area, including St. Paul, the capital, and all the suburbs, and outstate and rural Minnesota. ICE is crawling all over the state, just like every other state that they've attacked. We think that's important to remember. And we know that the particular conditions in Minneapolis are just gross. They're just gross. They are evil. And we don't want to erase the incredible movement work that's happening across that great state. So thank you for that flag. Y'all, there's so much more to give you. We're not done yet. You've got the 2 calls to action that we've given so far around Target, around Hilton. Be doing those tonight and sharing, spreading the word about that. Next, I get to bring up our beloved Fran, an organizer with Free MN and a neighborhood organizer on the ground in Minneapolis. Fran, I'll kick it to you next.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be with you all, and just seeing the over 1,000 people that tuned in is for me sitting in Minneapolis and seeing ICE outside of this window this week, just so inspiring. So I really appreciate y'all for being here. So I'm one of the Free MN organizers that is helping to lead the ICE Out Enterprise campaign. So about a month ago, we learned from Enterprise car rental employees that over 1,000 cars were being rented to ICE on a contract. And we've been working hard to build relationships with Enterprise employees since then, and in doing so have learned that they have continued to rent more cars to ICE since January. And what they're doing with these cars is they're brutalizing our neighbors, they're kidnapping our families, they're stalking legal observers, and we need to do something about it. So about a month ago, we launched a campaign, and that campaign has 2 goals. So the first is to convince Enterprise to cancel its contract with ICE, to make it clear that doing business with ICE is bad for business, and to make an example of Enterprise for other car rental agencies and other corporations, bar none. Again, that doing business with ICE is bad for business. And we approach this campaign with 2 strategies. So both outside game and inside game. So outside game, applying pressure to the corporation, as well as playing an inside game. I saw someone earlier in the chat ask, what about the workers? What if corporations are not going to agree to defect? And we have been intentionally building relationship with Enterprise car rental workers for the purposes of gaining their allyship and their defection. We approach this campaign with the idea that anyone we interact with is a potential ally. So we launched this a month ago, first with a day of action at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. You might have seen a TikTok video going around. We had a ton of Minnesota community members show up to the Enterprise Rental Car Center at the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport and get in line and go up to the counter. First, build relationship. They brought treats. I think there were donuts involved, maybe coffee, and they booked cars, or they reserved cars. And then they went to the back of the line, got in line again, waited until their turn, and they canceled cars. And they did this on repeat, on repeat, on repeat, knowing that as well, the workers knew what was up, and that part of the work of fighting authoritarianism is aligning with the interest of those involved and getting a sense of, like, how has your day been? I hear things are rough right now for Enterprise. How is this going for you? And that day of action here in the Twin Cities evolved to an ongoing campaign. And so we've had amazing folks show up and organize pods, so small groups of friends, family, folks from church, your garage band, your knitting circle, organized pods to engage in what has now been 30 days of daily action. Again, applying pressure from the outside and working to gain allyship from the inside of Enterprise to get them to cancel their contracts with ICE. And those actions that they've been doing around the greater Twin Cities metro and into the suburbs and even into some rural locations are tangible, they're specific, they're things that you can do sure, they include going and building a relationship at the enterprise rental center, but they also include sending some emails from your couch. They also include booking and canceling rental cars at no cost from your home. And they have been doing this, hundreds of these folks have been doing this in small pods for a month now and inspire me every single day. And now we're calling on you to bring this campaign global. So on President's Day in the United States, on Monday, the 16th of February, we are calling on you all, on folks around the globe, to host a protest at your most local enterprise rental center. And we want these protests occurring at every enterprise rental center to fill a map around the globe, to say, not my president, no to authoritarianism, no to ICE. And we're hoping that that also then evolves into you founding a pod that can maybe adopt your local enterprise rental center with some really tangible, specific actions that we will support you with. And we'll help you out along the way. So sign up using the Action Network link that is in the chat. We will give you toolkits, chants, protest songs, everything you need to make it happen. We're even doing some coaching this Thursday if folks have questions about how to make this possible. And here's the link for what's also in the chat. So we're calling on you now to say, no authoritarianism, not in my community, not my president. And we have one more ask, which is we're building a movement of leaders that know how to fight authoritarianism and fill that void with connection and relationship and care. And we were learning that doing so costs some money. So if you're unable to join us on the 16th, maybe you have a spare few dollars, we would appreciate it so we can build a movement here, a non-cooperation movement here in Minnesota that truly fights and defeats authoritarianism. But all that said, what I'm most excited about is introducing you to two of our fabulous pod leaders, Jay and Jay, who are going to share a little bit about the power of what they've been up to. So thank you all so much. Sending a lot of love from Minneapolis.
Thanks, Fran. Hi, everyone. We're Jay and Jay, and we're so excited to be here and to support this work that's happening. And we started just how you are. Someone who we love invited us in. Like many of you and us, we were looking for a place to channel and put our grief and our rage and our power in a tangible place in the world. And so we got involved, and it's been a really like joyful and powerful thing in our lives that we want to share with you. So when we were asked to share, we were given 4 questions that we'll just spend a little bit of time speaking to. So the first one was like, what's been inspiring about like building a pod? We decided to bring people into our home. So like when we started to text our folks and be like, hey, you want to throw down on this thing? You want to put your rage and your love somewhere? We invited folks to our home. We got some pizza because we worked all day, and we made a cute little PowerPoint, but it was really about welcoming people and bringing people together to be inside of our pod. That's kind of how we wanted to frame ours. And then what we learned inside of that is like, it really instilled hope for us and hope for other people. And we were at a place where we just needed so much hope. We put a lot of time or just like thought into what is our pod identity. So we want to have fun while we're doing it, So we like came up with a title of our pod and we made like a logo, and we got to bring people into this like thing that was bigger than themselves. And then something else that's been really inspiring for us has been seeing people leverage their strengths and their skills in like really cool, badass ways, And so some of that has been like, hey, we want to do art, creative actions when we're targeting enterprise. We want to knock on our neighbors' doors. We want to knock on the doors of the people that live in the neighborhood of the enterprise branch that we've adopted. And that came from like our people, like, and not even just us leading it. So the next question we've been asked is, what successes have we had?
Yeah, hey y'all. So glad to be here with all of you. Some successes that we've had, there's a lot of them, so we whittled it down into ones that are highlights for us. We in our pod, we are called the Purple Sirens. We have 30 plus members across both local in Minnesota, but also as far out to the East Coast, some in Utah, some in Alabama. So it's really been able to like spread both locally and just across the country. We had two of our members and a family friend like tackle some art, and we got art hanging on a highway that um, brings forth the mission of like, hey, enterprise, don't work with ice. So we have big banners on the highways. And really, we've really focused on building relationships at our local branch, the branch of enterprise that's close to us that we've adopted. We've established trust and connection and relationships with the folks who work at that enterprise branch. Shout out to Muhammad and Tony and Evan. And a couple of our members in our pod they brought donuts and went to the enterprise branch, were kind, were nice, and were like, it resulted in speaking to the assistant manager, welcomed him to provide feedback about what they can do as employees at the branch. And it really like allowed us to connect with our branch, and like were our allies. And so we were able to really connect in that way.
Some of we've been asked to share a couple of the learnings that have like hit home for our pod. I think the first one that, and this has come through once again, not just us, but like our people, our pod members, is learning your branch, building relationships at your branch, and then adapting your tactics or how you maybe move the tactics of the campaign with your branch. The heartbeat of building with or keeping relationship at the center with the workers. We're not trying to make their life necessarily harder. We're actually targeting like enterprise, like the people in power that are having them to make these choices at work of their values or getting paid. One thing that's been helpful for us is we made documentation like a standard of our pod. It's just the thing that we practice. When you do any of the tactics like a book and cancel, or you go visit the branch, like drop some notes. It can be bullet points. It doesn't have to be a whole essay, but we want to be able to document so we can say, hey, this is what our pod's done. I think a big learning is to be like, people are living hard lives and are stretched thin, love. So people are going to kind of bow out as they need to, but like, I think the collective, like ethos of like, hey, we're doing this together. And we really tried to honor people's capacity. So we're like, hey, we're going to put this tactic on this day. Sign up for this one if you feel like you can hold that one that day. And then we got to share that labor amongst, and we were still hitting our target every single day of our sprint. And the last thing I wanted to offer around the learning is just like in the classic words of Missy Elliott, is that sometimes you have to put the thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Okay, so taking the tactics and knowing about your branch is important. So we built structures like that help support us in our pods. So we built like a spreadsheet. We're like, hey, sign up for this. You put it the day you signed up for on your calendar, hold it down, drop the notes here. And even just allowing like, or not even allowing, but setting the structure up to be like, hey, we got two people on this tactic for the day. So you don't have to do it by yourself. You have someone identified, and it just honored that like folks were also still tending to so many other things in life. And I'll kick it Justin for the last one.
Yeah. So one of the things that is so important right now, and I know it's so hard, y'all, is hope. We need hope. And so one of the things that's making me hopeful moving forward is that we are giving ICE hell until they retreat for good.
Period.
That is the goal. We want ICE out. We don't want them to go anywhere else.
Not accepting less.
We want them out. And so really like holding that at the forefront, and also the continued growth and expansion of this like offensive approach is very smart, because not everyone can go out on the street, whether it's access or ability or whatever. So doing something you can do from your home, whether you're vulnerable or otherwise, like it's just, you can really expand this offensive approach with enterprise, with Target, with Hilton and hotels. And how we get free is by organizing us, the people, to flex our collective power. And we were talking earlier that this moment is the most we've seen everyday American organizing like happen. And this is a win for the left. We're often fractured in ideology. And so the ability to like make it to the other side and still attempting to heal from so much of this. Like, it's just, we've got to find the hope. And yeah, that's what's been giving us hope.
Last thing I'll say, my friends, is that if this is your first time ever being on a call like this, or your first time you ever done hit a tactic or a spreadsheet, or someone encouraged your heart to be here tonight, it's like, welcome in. Like this is the moment. So much love, y'all. Thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but I would follow Fran and J anywhere. Anywhere, any day, honey. They quoting the great prophet, Missy Elliott. They done called you in. That could have been a benediction right there. So I need you to show some love through your actions by actually rocking with this enterprise campaign, right? So now we're up to three. You've got the target intervention, you've got a call to action around Hilton, and now I don't like, you literally couldn't have had a better presentation why and how you can get down on enterprise. Our last speaker for the evening is one who you know is a longtime union organizer, a founding member of Minneapolis Families for Public Schools. Our last speaker is Margarita Hernandez. Margarita, I'll toss it to you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here with everyone here. I'm here on behalf of, well, I shouldn't say I'm here on behalf because I'm not, but I do want to share the stories of a lot of what our families are going through at this moment. Families and specifically our sites around our public schools have been the organizing and resistance and mutual aid for a lot of impacted families who are not being able to go to work or facing the crises. A lot of them isolated, right, in their own homes, and really feeling like, who are they, and like, well, how do they belong into the society, and questioning, should they stay here, right? Like, we have families who are like thinking about and have decided to move back home to their home countries. And so these are real families. So I'm here to give a little bit of more of like what are families going through in this moment and why this work around corporate campaigns are so important. And then also talk a little bit about sort of how we're organizing with families to make sure that we're protecting each other, as other speakers have said. And so we have families. There was just a report recently that came out about 4,000 people in the Twin City metro areas have been detained. We probably assume that these are under reported. These are moms, these are dads, these are grandmothers, these are children, right? These are siblings, these are people who are in our community, right, that look like me, who are just trying to get to work or trying to get to. We have a grandmother who got picked up as she was on her way to the hospital to see her daughter who was sick at the hospital. The report also mentioned there's 10 to 20 million dollars that are impacting local economy, right? These are mom and pop stores. These are people who live in Minneapolis who are our neighbors, right? Who are also being impacted by ICE being in. And the report also mentioned there's $10 million in taxpayer money, right, that are going to house these agents in these hotels that we're talking about, right? Imagine what we could do with those $10 million to fund our public schools, right? It is amazing the kind of money that, is being spent on this. Families are right now really scared, right? We are having just last week, just in my son's school, where we have a sanctuary, what we called sanctuary teams are organized. 3 families got detained at check-ins, right? Families who were going in, doing the thing they're supposed to do, and not coming back home, right? One of those moms I talked to her on Wednesday. Thursday, she went in for check-in, didn't come back out. The volunteer called us, and then I had to call her husband to tell her that his wife, right, his children's mom, was kidnapped, was sent all the way back was sent to Texas. Spent 6 days there where she barely ate anything. I just got to see her again this morning because she was finally released last night at midnight at the Whipple building, just left out in the cold. Luckily, we have volunteers, Haven Watch, who are folks who are at the federal building as people come out with blankets and water and other things to be able to support people coming out. And what she shared was that, in the 6 days, she barely ate anything. What they fed her were like some crackers and water. right? She was severely dehydrated, pretty sick, and pretty disoriented when she came out, right? And she's one of thousands and thousands of these stories that we're hearing across Minnesota and across the country of families who are just being kidnapped in the daylight by ICE. Within hours of her being detained, she was shipped to Texas, right? The flights that folks are talking online, right? We start to see, right, as she came back to Minnesota and was put in a prison here. We were able to support her by putting money so she could eat, so she can communicate with her families, right? Those are corporations that are making money off the back of immigrant families, right? And folks and taxpayer money. We also have to see, they're making tons of money as well, right? From this. Um, but that's the one side, right? The opposite side is the amount of organizing, right? In labor, we have the saying, like, sometimes the boss is the best organizer, which really means like the boss is sometimes better in the way that they treat and mistreat people, right? Will actually mobilize and galvanize folks to come together, and that's what we're seeing. Across the metro area, we have sanctuary teams in majority of their schools. And these are parents, educators, admin, neighbors who are organizing, demanding for school closures, demanded for online options for families, and one demanded for utility shut-off ban, and now we're demanding eviction moratorium. We're also organizing mutual aid, right? Essential things like in basic needs, housing, utility, groceries, legal support, clothing, right? We're doing this through mass trainings also. We've done what we call our Purple Hat trainings, right? Where we're training hundreds and hundreds of patrols, folks who are out making sure our children and educators can go to school safely, doing kind of direct action trainings. We're doing intro to sanctuary teams. Like, how do you set up a school team in your school, in your city, in your town, right? What are the things that you need to learn around how to do mutual aid and make sure the basic needs of families are being met, right? How do we make sure that we're continuing to build relationships with our families who are going through this? And so part of why we're sharing this, right, is because, yes, it's important. These big corporations, right, we know those, we know the logos, we know the jingles, right? But at the end of the day, the reason that we're targeting them is because these are real people in our communities who are being impacted, right? My kids' class, we went from fighting for smaller class sizes because we were having 29 kids to now he's in, the teens, right? Because so many of his classmates are not in class right now. They're either doing online learning or have moved. And so we're seeing the impact on every family member. There's no one in Minneapolis that's not impacted by what's happening right here. And so as you're doing this work, right, as you're organizing these direct actions and going to targets and okay, buddy, I'll be right there. And Barrington at the same time. Um, what we want is to, on your heart to hold, right? The folks who are being really impacted by this, right? Black and brown immigrant families, right? Who are here trying to make a living, who are here in their neighborhoods, who are here, who are part of the neighbor, right? Like these are my own family members, right? And so just think about that as you're getting tired because we are exhausted, as somebody else said, right? But that is what's keeping us going every day, right? Is the community building that we're doing, the community organizing that we are doing every day with each other and with the families that are impacted. And so keep that in your heart as you move forward, because that is it's gonna get hard, it's gonna get harder. And the only way that we can keep this going is through love and compassion and joy that we have for each other.
Absolutely. Margarita, we love you. Thank you so much for your leadership. Y'all, we have come to the hour, and I want to remind you we have got some work to do. We've got a choose your own adventure, and I hope you choose every single one of these paths. You can say, Yo, Ash, I'm trying to focus on Target. I got a Target near me. I'm going off on Target. You can click the links, grab the toolkit, do the work, join or host actions at Target, right? Then number two was Hilton, right? You can actually sign up to throw down, register that you are going to reserve a stay at a Hilton in Minneapolis. If you put your contact information in, you will get a reminder to cancel that reservation. And all of this is because of both Target and Hilton's complicity with the administration. Similarly, you could throw down on Enterprise, right? Maybe you've got an Enterprise near you. You can click the link and sign up to either host or join an event near you. Want to remind you, we're looking at 2/16 as a particular day of action on that one. Shout out to so-called President's Day. Y'all, and above all else, as Margarita reminded us, we actually can show, and Candace at the top, so many folks have said this, President Howard, over and over and over again, you've heard the importance of loving people out loud as solidarity is a practice. It's not enough to simply say that you care about what's happening in Minneapolis and across the state of Minnesota and across this country. It is not, it is necessary and insufficient to say that you're coming to these calls and you're getting in the information and you're spreading the word. That is important. But it will be all too little if we don't do the work to cost these corporations who are complying with evil. Folks asked in the chat, well, Ashley, does it really matter? Like, if we target them, is that really going to hurt the administration? Won't they just go to another rental car company? Won't they just go to another hotel corporation? Won't they just do? Maybe, but guess what? We could make it so politically toxic for them, so socially disgusting that no other corporation want to participate. Ask me how I know, because we already beat Avello, right? Because everybody is thinking about how much it will cost them to concede and how much they'll pay if we disrupt. So I'm going to invite you, many of you have heard me say this before, that power concedes nothing without an organized demand and a consequence. I'm going to invite you to be the consequence, my friends. Thank you for joining us tonight for this critical call for us to think about corporate campaigns, to hear about some that are already in the works, and to do the very minimum, which is just to show up and show out based on the work that these incredible folks that are right there in the belly of the beast have already created for us. I'm looking forward to being one of the number, and I'm looking forward even more to seeing you there. You all have a great night.